All good? Okay. Yeah, I know. Well, look, I appreciate you guys coming. As you can see, we don't have the full room of people like we typically do, and I think I didn't feel the need to fill the room, frankly. I felt like, making sure we get the proper coverage that have asked for that from radio, from TV, and from other, and felt like we'd go through some of these topics and knock out maybe a handful of them and then let you guys ask some questions. So, from the local, there's been a lot of national interest as well, as you can imagine. But today I just thought we'd just kind of walk through this little by little. So I'll start with, yesterday with Josh and Lori and their announcement of them as interims. And while I only got about 7 months to work with Lori in the provost role, the thing that stuck out to me in our weekly President's Cabinet meeting is she is a decisive leader, and I think that's imperative right now is to have that in that position. Whether it be in the provost or whether she be in the president's role, certainly the interim at this point, it's going to be important for the university to have somebody that's in a decisive leadership role and to move things forward. And what I've seen so far is that she's going to be very capable to do that. Josh, as you guys know, is near and dear to my heart. Brought him back from Villanova, has a lot of terrific traits, loves this place, likes what's going on, a lot of experience in a variety of areas, and will gain more experience in other areas to cover the void. I think has the respect of the staff and the leadership team, and as you guys know, work closely with some sports as a sport administrator. So I've tried to get him in a position to be ready, just like Amy Calabrese as our SWA, is to get them in a position to be ADs one day. And that would have been, and is today probably one of the proud points of when you're in my prior role as a CEO, is getting other people ready to be CEOs. And I always said that. I know coaches talk about what their coaching tree looks like, and my coaching tree for my last real CEO job is 4 CEOs. So in that same vein, I think about them the same way, and that's why we created kind of our junior sport administrator program. But with that being said, I think Josh has got a terrific team around him, very talented, deep, and experienced, that we put together, and it'll make it for an easier transition for him. I don't think there's going to be decisions he has to make. When you go from a deputy to an AD, you got to have conviction in your decisions, so not ones you can waffle on and take to the AD's office. You're it. So you got to have that conviction and understanding what you're doing, and certainly I think you'll see more of his personality come out as he's in this role for as long as he's in it, or whether he becomes the permanent. So that's certainly, but I'm excited for him, and I've been in touch, as you can imagine, multiple days, every day for whatever the last 10, 12 days that I've been gone. The time goes by quickly. One of the things he referenced yesterday with the football program and Coach Satterfield, he mentioned it strongly as I would. Coach Satterfield is the football coach. We're going to support him in what he's getting done. I get it. Jeff Brom, other great coaches out there in the country would love to have come in here to this program. I think if you asked them all where we are in facilities, I think they'd tell you we're at the top of the game. Even Scott in our meeting mentioned that now that we solved kind of the training table issue and using the Pepsi Club, it's fantastic. We've done all the things and try to give him the resources to be successful, but he's carried the water on this program for 3 years, 3 difficult years from where it was left in his lap. We all know about the lack of recruiting that was going on before he got here. You don't solve that overnight, but you do solve it what he's doing, trying to build a program and develop players, similar to what he did at App State. There's a reason why they've gone to 3 straight conference championships after he left with his players and some of his staff. Frank Ponce calling the plays, Dale Jones down there. So that continuity is important, and that's why we brought him here, and think that's why he still has the great opportunity in front of him to take this program in to compete for the ACC. So the talent that he recruited last year, the talent that he's bringing in this year, it's a smaller class, but per man is going to be really exciting, and you can see what's happening in the transfer portal. So we talked a lot about recruiting. We talked a lot about recruiting staff and how to bolster that and how things have changed with the portal. We talked about the staff. We knew we had a couple positions we were going to have to fill, and Stu Holtz left since, so that was one that was on the fence. It's now final, and Scott had really good thoughts about how he wanted to shape the staff, including the replacement of Mike Siriano on there. But the players play hard for him. The players love him. The staff responds to him. It's things that fans don't see behind the scenes that we do. They play hard through the games, and it's difficult to end the season losing your rival in the way we did. Hard to explain, frankly. But with that being said, I think he knows people want to call him contract years. As Scott would put it, he wants to move in the house he's building right now and be there a long time. He knows he's got to win this year. That's the Mr. Obvious point, and I think that he's up for the task, and I think he's got a staff and bringing in more talent to do that. So, time will tell, but we need to give him that support. It's been a tough 3 years to rebuild this program to where it needs to be from where we were as the worst rated defense in the country. And I think what he did with what he had and had Becton and others that initial year helped him, but it didn't solve the next couple years. And with what he's doing and the talent, what he's doing in development, redshirting some really big guys on the defensive line, bode well. So I feel like we're in a good spot. He did a good job getting to know donors over the last year. He'll do a better job getting to know fans over the coming year. And I think that's something that's also part of how do you run this program and making sure that he's clear on it. They don't get to see some of his personality as well that we get to see behind the scenes. He stays pretty stoic and he's pretty reserved, but he's also about as competitive as you can be if you're playing golf or any kind of yard game. So I wish him the best. On basketball, Chris is having a heck of a time right now. Again, sometimes all that occurred in the past moves forward with those who come next. And he gets tagged with some of the things that occurred before, meaning everybody has a view of where we were. I have a different view of where we were when I stepped in, and certainly when he stepped in about 6 months later. And it's a challenge. I've been in those recruiting meetings with families and what we're dealing with, and it's unfortunate what's going on with the NCAA that we're still having to sit here and wait to find a hearing date and drag this thing out. It just puts more pressure on him, more pressure on the program, and it's tough for fans when you're not winning at the level that we've won at historically. But I still believe that National Coach of the Year, that Big East Coach of the Year, hasn't forgotten the game and will do his best as he has to get the talent in here and compete, get us back into the postseason, and has the ability to be our coach here for a long time to come. On the other sports, the reason we're talking today and not, 10 or 12 days before is, I didn't want to be a distraction to anything going on. Certainly didn't want to get in the way of anything happening at the university. I knew we had the football banquet on Saturday. We had the volleyball coming up. They had a couple matches. Basketball Friday night. Didn't want to be there in the way in the stands and be a distraction to the fans, to you guys, certainly to the team. And I think they know that. The coaches knew that. My staff knew that and felt like once it was done where Lori and Josh were named interims, we would get together and talk about a variety of things. But our athletic performance as a department is likely going to be the highest ranking we've ever had in the Learfield Cup standings this year. Certainly with Justine of field hockey being ranked number 1 during the year, Danny getting volleyball to where it is, undefeated, ranked number 1 and heading to the Final Four. We all know Jeff Walls is going to push hard to move back up and potentially get that number 1 ranking during the season from what we've seen. Is impressive. Dan McDonald, where he is preseason, and obviously make a run and hopefully stay healthy this year. There's a lot of positives. Men's soccer winning the Atlantic Division for the first time. So I know there's a great deal of focus on losing to Kentucky in football and what's happening in basketball today. But it appears that we're in the best shape we've been in that setting. Financially, I can speak to that. We took on pretty significant liabilities here related to those that aren't here anymore. Related to the John Schnatter buyout. You're getting in the range of $40 million that you have to get over it, and I feel like we've gotten over it. We're done paying off Bobby's payments. We got a couple payments left with John Schnatter. The other liabilities related to Tom and any expenses related to Rick and all that are gone. And the pre-COVID year, we made $4.3 million. We lost $3.6 last year. I'd love to see how many schools can say they profited between the mix of those 2 years. And they're in a setting today to be profitable again in fiscal year 22 for us. Really good spot. The future's good. It's better in terms of where the ACC distribution will grow significantly next year with Comcast. We'll have a stadium naming rights partner, and I'm comfortable as a donor and a fan where we're going. What avails this athletic department in terms of, one, starting to put a few bucks away. We need a bigger war chest than we have today. But I think it also avails you to be really competitive. I don't want to prognosticate, but we will have to deal with Scott's contract one way or another. If he wins, that's great. If not, you got to deal with it a different way. But the athletic department will be in position to be, to continue forward in a good state. I feel comfortable about that. The supporters, I know Tim Sullivan loves to write about donors and all that, and I think it's bullshit. We've done our part on donors. We've done our part. We came in with a values-based selling program that we're sitting here in the Galt House. They're one of them. I understand that individual donors are going to be upset, but from the corporate side of things, where you run a business like we run it, that's why we have UPS upping for $5 million, and Angels Envy for $4 million, and L&N Credit for $4.5 million, Planet Fitness for $3 million, Galt House $3.5 million, Kentucky Farm Bureau $2 million, Zappos $1.5 million, $1 million from Buffalo, Patterson, Bridgman, the names that you hear about, Isaac Roth, Sander Frazier. All those happen in short order here, not over a period of 20 years, in very short order. That's why we bolstered our ability to continue to invest in these programs, invest in these coaches, and do the things we've done and mitigate where we were in COVID. We've done our part. We told them we would. If we weren't, I think they would ask for their money back, or they would ask for future commitments to come back. And I'm comfortable that Josh and the rest of the department is going to steward that in a way, Michael Dudas and others will steward it in a way that we originally discussed, and bring great value with them, and proud of being a part of the Cardinal Bird. So they're still to come. We still have the stadium naming rights. We didn't get a chance to launch it during COVID for obvious reasons. It's in process, and next year we'll have a new name on that stadium. It'd be really valuable to our department to come for years. There was zero money coming from that agreement through 2041. So it's a new revenue source as we liquidate the liability that we have with John, and I'm really thankful that John's been very cooperative with us in terms of our ability to pay that off, and he gave us a year hiatus on that deal to take a break on a $2 million payment during COVID. So I'm appreciative of that. Didn't have to do that. As it relates to me and Florida State and what happened there, they certainly reached out. I was hesitant to have any conversations. I've not talked to any other schools that have ever reached out to me. I've said no every single time that Louisville's my home and this is a place I love. Things occur along the way that maybe get you to rethink some things. Florida State was very aggressive. They have a great product to sell. It's an amazing university, top 20 academically, top 20 athletically. Their leadership's in sync with a new board chair who I can relate to with a private equity background, a president that came from Harvard. I'm close with David Coburn, the outgoing athletic director, and Michael Alford, the incoming athletic director who ran Seminole Boosters. He was at Central Michigan. We're both Adidas schools. Got to meet he and Laura, terrific people. It's clear where athletics' role is in the campus vision at Florida State. There's $200 million going into football alone, $100 million into an indoor facility, 82 million's raised, another 100 going into stadium enhancements, improvements, likened to what we've done at Cardinal Stadium and with Populous, who I'm very close with, and would have planned that project out. And then certainly you can see Learfield, though proud Learfield Cup standings, they're going to be probably in the top 10 this year after winning the soccer national championship just a week ago on the women's side, and very competitive in other sports. Big focus on women's sports like we have here, which is terrific. So I think as that went on, I certainly talked to him. You can see why there were some things that were interesting or flattering to consider, but I think as it really came down to it, I took the high road. I went to Neeli, talked to her that night or afternoon on the 3rd. Per my contract, I wanted to take the high road, as I have in everything I've done here. Told her that there was a great deal of interest from Florida State, but I'm not moving forward any discussion, negotiation, anything, that my contract prohibits that, and I would need some type of clearance because they are an ACC school to have any conversation. And I had a copy of my contract that I delivered to her and pointed out the clauses in my contract that I thought might be in conflict, so that she was aware and could share that with Mary Nixon, our board chair, and anybody else who was willing to listen. She noted she called me the next day, and I've never heard from her since. On Sunday, I did receive a call after I sat with our management team to prepare for the bowl prep. So I went into the office, we got them ready, we got organized for the bowl on Sunday, and shortly thereafter received a call from Michael Wade Smith saying that a group had met that morning, was going to reconvene that evening, and said he'd have a draft of some type of release because I requested a legal document, not a word of mouth. And I would see a draft that night or in the morning. I got a call the next day around 4 o'clock or so, and was presented with a draft less than an hour before a Board of Trustees meeting, which would need a legal review in proper time, which I could not provide because my attorney was not prepared for a 4 o'clock, but early in the morning draft. And so that's why I think there was one of the reasons there were no action, but I later realized there was no action because there was a different agenda item going on related to Neeli's resignation. I was unaware of that. Didn't learn of that till I was going to bed Wednesday night. So on Wednesday, per my contract language, after the release, if you will, the contract amendment or addendum was approved by the board, I immediately sent a copy of my resignation to overnight, per the language, while I overnighted, to Neeli with a copy to Angela Curry, our general counsel. Did not hear from anyone at the university or the board during that window of time. And on Friday, I received, overnight, received a letter acknowledging receipt of my resignation and a voicemail from Mary Nixon later that day on Friday. So that's kind of the process. Wednesday night, I stepped back, as most know, from the Florida State opportunity. Did not go any further in the process. I think that quiet period that I felt was in my contract to sit back and not further discussions gave Lori and I a lot of time to reflect with our kids about where we were and the notion of going to Florida State, the notion of staying in athletics versus business. I had 2 standing offers to leave and go to the business world that are pretty enticing. They're still out there. And I was just trying to rethink, like, where am I, write down the pros and cons, and just reflect on where I am and frankly, my love for Louisville. And told Florida State it wasn't for me. And but at the same time, based on where I was here, provided my resignation, decided to step back, and felt like maybe in my role as a fan and a donor, I could have some positive impact on this university without receiving a salary. And I'll do that from the stands. I'll do that as a continued donor. But I think that's the hard part, is I'm going to really miss the people and miss the opportunity to engage with the fans and provide a great product. And I love hearing from all the former student athletes that have called back, from Javion Hawkins all the way through Mason King, whoever it is, field hockey players, to know that's what I really enjoyed, was having an impact on them, and I have, and I think my family has. So it's a neat thing, and that's probably the rewarding part, and that's the part I love about this place, is it is a communal group. I know it. I was born and raised in it. I still love it, and will continue to. So when we play basketball tonight, I'll be there. Lori and I'll be there. And when we go to Columbus to play volleyball on Thursday, I'll be there too. Danny knows that why I wasn't there this past weekend, but why I'll be there Thursday. And related to her, before the postseason started, Amy Calabrese and I sat down. We had the details of her contract extension ready. Danny and I talked about it again this morning. I think, and Josh as well. I think from this point, it's for Amy and Josh to button that up, put a bow on it. But I think we were well prepared to have her here as a head coach for a long time, and hopefully that happens. So I'm excited about what Jeff's doing in the basketball and the other things. I guess from here, rather than ramble on, is to stop and take some questions.
At the end of the day, the takeaway from all of this.
I got thick skin, so all the noise around fans and stuff like that really doesn't bother me. I think most of y'all know that. I've been through enough in my leadership roles to deal with stuff. I always try to filter that out. I've got a great crap detector in business and in life, and I try to apply it here. And I'm looking for ways to add value. I felt like maybe one thing I learned from private equity is you're always on a financial fast break to get things done and give a great return. I felt that from the day I was here. I carried a big weight on my shoulders to get as much done as I could, not knowing how long I would stay. So I think that hopefully that effort shows in a lot of ways for the fans, but certainly for the management team I leave behind.
Would your decision to resign have been the same had you known that Neeli was leaving?
It would have probably impacted it.
Do you feel they had an obligation to tell you?
I can't speak for why they didn't notify me.
You referenced earlier about the commitment to sports at Florida State and the big picture of things. Do you feel like that's lacking here, or is a different take on where sports is or is going?
I think the leadership of this university needs to be clear where athletics is in the campus mission.
Vince, what was it like to work with Neeli? It seems like that relationship kind of splintered over time.
No, I mean, look, I've got respect for a lot of things she did, and other things. You're in leadership, sometimes in management, you're going to agree to disagree on things. And I think that certainly we didn't agree on everything. But, you know, it is where it is at this point.
Where do you think sports should be in the picture of Louisville for the future?
Well, I think the brand of Louisville is important. It always has been. You know, where we've been historically, nationally, and what it's done for attracting student athletes and students alike. And I hear it all the time. You know, you get a manager for the baseball team who tells me he came here because of Lamar Jackson. We know the impact when we're out there, and I know the impact that the brand, the marketing of the brand occurs primarily from the athletic department. The billboards, the signage, the things you see around town. When we have 3 football games that are on national TV unopposed, I don't know how you value the advertising and media on that when there's no other schools competing against us when we're playing a Central Florida or a Duke or Ole Miss in one season. And I think that we've been able to have a lot of that over the years, even with the advent of cable. Back when Denny was here, we were on national TV on Saturdays, but I think we've done a good job thinking about what that brand means when we are on national TV. And you guys can see the investment we've made through Lottie and the way we've done things to build this brand. Because I've said all along, we got to carry the university's brand when we're talking about athletics. And you know, that I know there's a branding opportunity going on campus. I'm not sure how that'll be rolled out or fulfilled.
Did you ever consider firing Scott? And if so, did you ever in any way sort of broach other possible replacements, and were you interfered with in doing it?
I mean, maybe during a few games, no. No, in seriousness, I've always had a long-term view of things, and I've said this, it would have gone against what I believe today, that I think coaches coming into programs like this, 4 years, you got a lot to do, and just, I don't want to harp on where we were, but I knew this was probably going to be a 4-year thing for him. I was clear with him on that. It became, you know, it's a challenge when you have some games that you lose close ones, or certainly get beat by your rival in the way we did. But I still, after that 3 years, assessing where we are, where the talent is, what he was doing to redshirt, to bring things along, you know, we got into a lot of issues over a 3-hour meeting. But I would tell you, we talked about him along the way too, and still feel like he's ready to take that next step, and we need it. So is there thoughts that cross your mind when you're looking at the way things are going? I would deny that any AD gets emotional, has to think about it. You always got to think about both sides of the ledger and weigh it out. But I think what I explained here, talking about where we are as an athletic department, we're in really good shape. We're in better shape with him, and I think we'll see better results next year.
Vince, there was so much chatter from the end of the Kentucky game until that next Saturday or Friday night or whatever. Would Scott, his father passed away, would that have impacted when that meeting was, that could have alleviated that chatter along the way? You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I mean, I typically did end-of-year meetings with all coaches. It was just my thing. We'd sit down and they knew the agenda. We'd talk about recruiting, resources, their staff, their contract, just all those things that we were doing. I had a very simple agenda. We want to hit all those topics with each coach, you know, whether it's John Michael or whether it's Scott Satterfield. So, no, it's unfortunate. We knew he was dealing with this. I mean, he went to see his father a handful of times during the season. We tried to do it during the bye week. That's why we didn't go up to do the Lamar thing live in Baltimore. We did it by video because I wanted him to be with his family, his mom and his brother as much as his dad and his family health. But, you know, the schedule worked out. We were in Raleigh a couple times. He got to go over there when we played and Wake Forest. So he snuck over there and got to visit. He was balancing that during the year, but I think he stayed incredibly focused on the team.
From the time you put the letter in the certified mail, and then you realized Neeli was resigning, to reach out to Mary Nixon or anyone else on the board to maybe reconsider your your resignation at that point?
I did not. At that point, not hearing from anyone, I did not.
Vince, you mentioned if you knew Neely was leaving, that might have made you reconsider. Wasn't your relationship with Neely the main part of you thinking about leaving Louisville or going into private business or even considering Florida State?
No, I think there was just a lot of things going on at that time. I go back in the summer. I met with Mary and Neely the first week of July and expressed some of my thoughts about where we were and where we should go. Maybe just over the coming months, those thoughts, certainly were in the back of my mind as to what was next for me. It's difficult when you love this place like I do and think about what your exit plan is going to be. There's no easy exit. There wasn't here either, and that's the hard part is, you're going to take some level of criticism and some scrutiny. Was it all Neely? You're trying to point to one thing. It wasn't all Neely. Neely and I enjoyed some good times as well. But I think that I was thinking about what I thought was best for me and my family at that time and where I was. And what all that we had going on and all the challenges, not to make this too hyperbolic, but it was like dog years being in this role the last 4+ years. I worked a lot of hours, a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, a lot of initiatives, a lot of fundraising, if I listed out accomplishments to bore you guys on behalf of the staff, it was exhausting. And that's where you just kind of say, like, what do you want to do next? And next was to plan a family vacation for me.
So if they had offered you an extension, would you gone regardless?
At that point, I think I was gone.
Do you think Louisville is at a crossroads about where sports is going to be in the big picture, and is that part of the reason that you thought at the time might be ready to leave?
Well, I think, I don't know that's in the crossroads. I think it's in a really good spot. I do. I think that I didn't have to run across campus to get decisions made. I felt like I was in a position to make my decisions and had authority to make those decisions. I knew what we were dealing with and what I would deal with. I also, got exposure to a lot of things on campus, being on a number of committees across campus. But I was also cognizant of what was happening in the ACC and in the national limelight of like where things are going. You can see it today with Florida State and Miami. And it's going to be a big, what do you do going forward? College athletics is changing dramatically right in front of us right now. And I don't know that you can, there's going to be, there's the innovators and the fast followers, but and this one you kind of have to figure out and be in between. I'm not sure you want to burn a lot of capital trying to be totally innovative, but you better be close on the heels of what's happening, or certainly in those meetings. And I think we have been. I'd like to believe that my relationship with Jim Phillips and others across the country, and the reason a Jack Swarbrick or a Dan Radakovich or a Mark Harlan at Utah and others are calling, wanting to say, hey, come help me with some stuff, is because Louisville's business model is attractive to other schools, and what we did here was attractive to Florida State.
Because you said you didn't hear from anybody on the board, you saying that kind of lets you know where you stood?
I think it's one of the things. I mean, just human nature, right? I'm not trying to pick on the board at all in my comments. Somebody else has to answer to that. Maybe it's the right time for them to have somebody in this role, but it's a good time for the board to to Fred's question, it's hard for me to answer because it's one that I think the university needs to think about. How do they value athletics and how they value the athletic director position?
Vince, you live the world as a donor. For 4 years, you've dealt with those donors. Where's the disconnect? Because, there has been things out there.
I don't think there is one. There's a disconnect with a few individuals, but
I would say, is it just
the Courier?
Is it just
Sorry, Cameron, but look, you want to get into one-sided tabloid articles, write them all you want. It's not true. Call these individuals who have made their commitments to us and talk to them. Yes, there's going to be individuals who want to win games that are big donors that are important to this university. I'm not saying they're not. They are important. We all are. I am. But I think that, this is a scenario that I don't hear. I heard it when I got here, and there was immediate disconnect. We lost 3,500 season ticket holders in basketball, and some donors disappeared. And then over time, I think as people saw what we're doing, and we're running I think a classy operation the way we're doing it, working with integrity, high road, making every tough decision to relate it to staff and individuals and all that in a way that I think is in the best interest of the university. That's why people are the supporters that have stayed behind us and are going to be with us going forward. They've dug in, like I asked on day one when I took this job. And I'm hopeful some of those will come back, but you can't arm twist people into this. You just got to go do your thing and let things fall. And I felt like we were doing a good job running this department and being great stewards of the athletic mission.
When you got thrust into this job, it was difficult. You mentioned the long hours and that. Will it be more difficult now that you're leaving it because of the connections you've made, like you said, with the student athletes and the things?
Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still staying in touch with them. I mean, if I showed you, well, I left my phone in the car, but if I showed you a text and told you my conversations are continuing with the staff, as you can hear, probably talked to 4 of my former direct reports this morning helping on issues. Talked to a big donor today about another donation that I think will be helpful for them to consider related to baseball. And I called Michael Dew to say, I'm going to carry this one to the finish line for you, and he thought it was a cool idea to come up with. I'm still going to be here and support the school. That's not changing. There's not like this weird notion that I've like pulled the curtain. Only on reporting to the office every day, but not my emotion or need or want to help the university.
Chris, when you made the decision.
Vince?
Vince, I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff.
It's okay.
Vince, when you made the
It's okay,
decision
Kevin.
to suspend Chris back for 6 games,
Mhm.
you said ultimately it was solely your decision. Was it really solely your decision?
Well, it's a collaborative one you certainly present, right? That's a decision at a high level that, again, I was trying to make a decision that I thought was in the best interest of the university as much as our basketball program. And I think when you have to weigh a lot of things out, which I did. And I communicated those to Chris as well about where we are and expectations of the program. I go back to what happened with Dino, and it's really unfortunate. It is. But we handled that in the same way we've handled every single thing. The integrity we brought here was challenged, but the way you handle it is also meaningful. Chris notified us right away that day. We met in my basement that night. We addressed it with the NCAA right as the office opened the next morning. We got authorities involved right as they opened the next morning. We didn't run from stuff. We tried to handle it the best way we thought we should at that time. And that's not easy. It probably wouldn't happen in every university.
Was the suspension a compromise position, and was there pressure to fire Chris Mack over that?
I can't speak to where everyone was, at a board level. I just know where I was in thinking that he needed to be our head coach going forward. And while disappointed in what's alleged, still feel like Chris is a terrific coach, terrific to the players, and certainly we were in agreement on the staff changes that were made at the time. And unfortunately, there was some bitterness that came out of that during those meetings.
I was thinking about the politics of the job. Your vision of what this should be, do you feel like you were losing support to go where you wanted to go with this program?
I don't think so. We put together a master plan. I mean, I've got a master plan for facilities that included campus and athletics. I decided to just go ahead and take it on, and it's there. It's done. I've showed it to a lot of the leadership of this university, including filling out that Soleil lot, all the options you could have. I think there's some really cool things still to happen on Floyd Street, particularly in that lot, whether it's you got a lot of options with natatorium, sports complex, bring the academics and training table together down the street where the athletes want to be. There's a lot of cool things that are available to what Josh and the team and leadership wants to do from here.
You were in those meetings, you said, for the last 4 years with recruits basketball. Are they hamstrung because of the NCAA as far as recruiting is concerned, in your opinion?
I think, here's the way I would size it up. The answer is yes. You're certainly hamstrung. To what degree you got to sort out. And I know I've been questioning why is Auburn and LSU, Kansas still able to get some of these guys or produce. They have the same coach. You can speculate if Rick was still here or not, where would we be? But those 3 schools still have the same coach in place. We don't. We had a dramatic shift. It was fracturing to the program and to our fan base and our donors at that time. We endured things that they haven't. And that made it even more challenging on Chris in my mind.
Is it at all awkward to be involved in trying to help the university, help athletics, having been in your role and now just being as a fan? Has you and Josh talked about that at all?
Not for me.
Vince, you mentioned the silence you got from the board.
Maybe just unsure. It made more sense when I learned of Neely's resignation. It probably made more sense why there was, some degree of silence. But I'm not sure I was overthinking it at that point because of where my head was.
You came kind of from the ranks of fans, and I know you're in touch with them, or at least on the level they are. Were you at all surprised after the Kentucky loss at just how up in arms it got? It's always bad to lose to a rival, but it seemed like it took another level.
Yeah, I think it did because Jeff was involved. If it had been, Jeff's a good friend, as you guys know. The Braun family's good friends of mine. So, but I think just the idea that fans always find it easy to fire people. They just don't always have the answer where to hire people. And in this one, they felt like they did with Jeff because he's a local. And I get it. But as I would say, based on where the university's going, I think they would have been, had there been that decision would have come on Scott, which it wasn't. You do a full national search. All due respect to Jeff, he's a great coach. He is. He's accomplishing great things at Purdue. I think a national search would have been in place. With these facilities and what we have and what we invest in football, the way where our assistant coaching pool is, the resources are available, the way we treat these student athletes and availing recruits, and what we're doing. I think there'll be a long list of really talented coaches, and I think the department's going to be in great shape to either boost that contract or avail someone else a terrific one. But I'm expecting Scott to succeed.
Do you think with the reporting and speculation that Jeff was reaching out to anybody in Louisville, or did they reach out to you at all?
I didn't talk to Jeff at all during this. Because of our friendship, I didn't think it was appropriate to put him in an awkward spot, or me either. The decision was solely rest upon where our program is with Scott Satterfield. I'm not, it's easy to get into the analysis and think about where we are with someone or not someone, but I just, so I didn't pick up the phone and call Jeff. As I say, it's Jeff and I are friends. Like, his daughter was at our volleyball camp this summer. We sit down and shoot the bull, like talking about Trinity and